What you're looking at right now could be the most expensive home on planet Earth. We're talking about palaces so insanely luxurious they make billionaire mansions look like starter homes. But here's the thing. The people who own these places, they're not just rich. They're operating on a level of wealth that's almost impossible to comprehend. Today, we're ranking the most insane trillionaire houses on the planet. And yeah, I know what you're thinking. Technically, there are no trillionaires. You're right, but when you control, entire oil-rich kingdoms have access to sovereign wealth funds worth trillions, and your family has been accumulating power and treasure for centuries. The line between personal wealth and national treasury gets pretty blurry. The crazy part, most of these places are so secretive that getting real footage is nearly impossible. These aren't your typical billionaire flexes that end up on MTV Cribs. These are fortresses owned by people who could buy and sell most countries. So buckle up, because we're about to tour some of the most outrageous, over-the-top, and downright insane palaces that money, and I mean serious money, can buy. Let's start at the bottom with North Korea's supreme leader, Kim Jong-un. Now, don't get me wrong, this guy's got some serious real estate, but compared to the oil money we're about to see, his setup is almost modest. What you're looking at is satellite imagery of one of the most heavily guarded compounds in human history. Kim Jong-un's main residence sits on about 2,800 acres and is surrounded by electric fences, minefields, and more security checkpoints than you can count. Inside the compound, there's a 160 feet long indoor swimming pool, a horse racing track with stables, a running track, though let's be honest, that probably doesn't get much use, and massive banquet rooms. The whole thing sits next to a man-made lake because apparently even dictators need a nice view. But here's where it gets interesting. This isn't even Kim Jong-un's only house. The guy's got residences scattered all across North Korea. We're talking about the Kungdong residence up in the mountains, the Suju official residence near the Chinese border, and dozens of others. It's like a twisted version of Monopoly, where instead of hotels, you build secret palaces. The reason this gets effed here isn't because it's not impressive. It absolutely is. It's because while Kim Jong-un is playing hide and seek with a dozen different houses, the people we're about to talk about are operating on a completely different level. They're not just hiding from the world, they're buying it. Moving up to D tier, we've got Qatar's royal family, the House of Al Thani. These guys are sitting on an estimated $335 billion fortune, and they know how to spend it. Their main palace in Doha is reportedly worth $1 billion. Let me say that again, $1 billion for a single house. The place is covered in gold and consists of 15 separate palaces, with a car park for over 500 cars. Most people are happy with a two-car garage. These guys need parking for an entire car dealership. But the real flex, they've got a $41 million mansion in Manhattan just for their servants. Think about that for a second. The house where the help lives costs more than most people will see in 10 lifetimes. The Al Thani family also owns their own private island called Al Safliya Island, off the coast of Doha. We're talking white sandy beaches, crystal clear waters, and several lavish villas, each with its own private beach, swimming pool, and helipad. Yeah, each villa gets its own helipad because apparently sharing helicopter landing spots is for peasants. The reason Qatar's royals land entire is simple. They're incredibly wealthy, but they're still playing in the minor leagues compared to what's coming next. When you've got oil money from the biggest reserves on the planet, a $1 billion palace starts to look like pocket change. Now we're getting into the serious money. Abu Dhabi's royal family, the House of Al Nahyan, controls an estimated $300 billion fortune. And their main palace proves it. The Qasr Al Watan, which literally means palace of the nation, cost around $490 million to build and took 150 million man-hour to complete. This place is absolutely breathtaking. We're talking about 380,000 m with 2,300 rooms. To put that in perspective, that's bigger than some Small towns. The interior is decorated, with blue and golden details featuring over 5,000 unique designs of Arab inspired iconography covering the walls, ceilings, and floors. But the real showstopper, a chandelier that weighs 12 tons and contains 350,000 pieces of crystal. This thing was so massive they had to assemble it inside the palace because it couldn't fit through the doors. The palace has a dome with a 37 diameter sitting on top of the great hall, which divides the building into east and west wings. The east wing works as a museum with over 50,000 books, documenting the cultural and political history of the UAE. The west wing is where the real business happens, official meetings and banquets with world leaders. But here's what puts them in C tier instead of higher. Wow, the palace is absolutely incredible. It's actually open to the public. Real trillionaire level wealth doesn't need to show off to tourists. The most powerful people in the world keep their best stuff hidden. Vladimir Putin officially makes around $140,000 a year as Russia's president. Unofficially, some estimates put his wealth at over $200 billion, making him potentially one of the richest people on Earth. And his real estate portfolio proves it. Putin's crown jewel is his secret palace at Cape Idcas on the Black Sea. This place was valued at $956 million in 2022, but recent estimates put it closer to $1.4 billion. We're talking about a 168-acre compound that's completely hidden from the public. The main palace has just about every room you could think of: indoor swimming pool, massive theater, hookah lounge, casino, wine cellars, and 11 massive bedrooms above ground. But the real insanity is what's underneath. There's a massive secret bunker system stretching over 100 foot underground. The walls of the elevator going down are made of concrete, measuring 38 centimeters thick, designed to withstand a nuclear attack. Inside the bunker, there are ventilation shafts for chemical attacks, fresh water supply, sewage systems, and even fire prevention systems. And if things get really bad, there are 2 long tunnels that lead directly to the Black Sea for escape routes. You can actually see the exits along the cliff side. The whole setup is protected by a stone barrier and multiple security posts along the beach. But Putin's not done. He's got the Valdi residence, sitting on a peninsula overlooking Lake Bald, 80 acres surrounded by water on 3 sides with helicopter pads, a boat marina with several yachts, and multiple mansions for his friends and family. The main house alone is 38,000 square feet, with an indoor pool, spa, and even a secret playground in the woods for his kids. Putin lands entire because while his wealth is absolutely staggering and his palaces are incredible, he's still playing defense. All that security, all those bunkers, all those escape routes. That's the behavior of someone who's worried about losing what they have. The people in a tier, they don't need to worry about that. Now we're in the big leagues. The House of Saud controls an estimated $1.40 trillion fortune. That's trillion with a T, and Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's real estate collection proves that when you've got oil money, you don't just buy houses, you buy entire realities. Let's start with his French chateau. Chateau Louis XIV, NBS bought this place for $31 million in 2015, making it one of the most expensive residential purchases in history. This isn't just a house, it's a 57,000 square FT monument to access. Sitting on 57 acres of manicured gardens, the chateau has 25 bedrooms, 2 ballrooms, one with a 52 feet high dome ceiling, a wine cellar for 3,000 bottles, a private cinema, a fully equipped nightclub, and even an indoor aquarium. The whole place is covered in gold leaf, elaborate frescoes, and crystal chandeliers that could rival Versailles. But that's just his vacation home in France. Back in Saudi Arabia, MBS is building something that makes every other palace on this list look like a starter home: the NUM Palace. Neon is a $2 trillion megacity being built in the Saudi desert, and at its heart sits NBS's personal palace complex. Satellite images show a fortress-like design with 10 helipads, a private marina for yacht access from the Red Sea and sprawling gardens creating an oasis in the desert. The complex features mirrored facades designed to blend with the desert environment while incorporating solar technology. There's a man-made lake for cooling and recreation, a full-scale golf course, and private beaches along the Red Sea coastline. But the real mindbender is the line. A revolutionary linear city that will stretch 170 kilometers and house up to 9 million people. It's described as a mirrored architectural masterpiece towering 500 m above sea level, but only 200 m wide. Imagine a city that's basically a giant mirror wall stretching across the desert. The House of Sud gets a tier because they're not just buying luxury, they're creating entirely new realities. When you can drop $2 trillion on a single city project, you're operating on a level that transcends normal wealth. You're not just rich, you're reshaping the world itself. Now, since we're talking about the most expensive houses on the planet, let's throw in a bonus section covering some billionaire mansions that are so insane they deserve a mention. Originally priced at $500 million, this 105,000-foot mega mansion has 21 bedrooms, 49 bathrooms, a 30-car garage, and a 10,000-foot sky deck. It even has its own nightclub and beauty salon. The place was so over the top it ended up in foreclosure and sold for only $141 million. Mukesh Ambani's 27-story vertical palace cost up to $1 billion to build and is now worth between $1 to $2 billion. This 400,000 QFT skyscraper has 6 floors just for parking 168 cars, 3 helipads, and requires a staff of 600 people to keep it running. It can withstand an 8.0 magnitude earthquake, because apparently even billionaires need their houses to survive the apocalypse. Technically owned by the British Crown, this 775-room palace is valued at $4.9 billion. It's got 78 bathrooms, 92 offices, 19 staterooms, and its own post office. The place has over 40,000 light bulbs and 760 windows that get cleaned every 6 weeks. It's basically a small city disguised as a house. So, there you have it, the most insane trillionaire houses on the planet, ranked from the secretive compounds of North Korea all the way up to Saudi Arabia's reality-bending mega projects. What's crazy is that most of these places are so secretive we'll probably never see the real interiors. These aren't people who need to flex on Instagram. Their wealth is so vast and their power so absolute that they can afford to keep their most incredible possessions completely hidden from the world. The House of Saud takes the crown not just because of their incredible wealth, but because they're using that wealth to literally reshape reality. When you can drop $2 trillion on a single city project, you're not just buying luxury, you're buying the future itself. Makes you wonder what other incredible palaces are out there that we'll never get to see. When you're operating at trillionaire levels, privacy isn't just a luxury, it's a necessity. Check out the videos suggested on your screen for more insane content about the world's most expensive everything.